is there any way for people to apply for asylum right now?
The only way to apply for refugee status in the United States is through the process established in statute for the State Department to apply to become a refugee in the United States. Illegal immigration, of course, is a crime, and that criminal statute will continue to be enforced.
Can you give us a sense of the deportations ongoing right now, the use of military planes? Can you walk us through what resources are involved and the scale and what your plans are?
Well, all of the above. So you have obviously DHS air assets, you have DOD air assets, you have State Department air assets, you have commercial air assets, you have charter air assets. So every asset that can be used to conduct a lawful deportation. Historically, it's been a big constraint on ICE, just the availability of aircraft, which is a logistical issue. And so opening up the aperture for enforcement to have a wide array of aircraft available is what allows for a larger throughput, whether you're talking about border and interior removals. Also, of course, when you have to direct, say, for example, ICE planes to the border to help with border support, then that takes resources out of the interior. So opening it up to the full range of aviation assets is what's going to allow us to hit all of our targets in terms of enforcement and removal.
We're reporting that Ecuador and Guatemala are two countries that have had planes sent to them already. Is that
well, I want to avoid getting to specific countries, but our goal is that we will be able to use military aircraft staffed by our immigration and enforcement personnel to conduct removal flights to any country in the world.
There's a report from Chicago that there were ICE agents that were turned away from a Southside elementary school earlier today. Is targeting of schools, targeting of things like this, something that the administration is comfortable with and will continue with?
I think the framing of the question is wrong. If there's a law enforcement activity that's taking place in the school, then that would be for the protection and defense of the child. As you know, there's an epidemic of child trafficking and labor trafficking in this country. When federal law enforcement officers are turned away from a school, it is the act of turning them away that endangers the lives and safety of children. We've seen, as you know, 500,000 children trafficked over a 4-year period in the United States. This administration is going to investigate every instance of child trafficking, labor trafficking, sex trafficking, child smuggling, and all the attendant crimes involved in that. And our message to everyone in the country is to cooperate fully with Immigration and Customs Enforcement so that we can end the scourge of child trafficking and child abuse that has been endemic these last 4 years.
And other than raids, is there anything you can share with how you're going to find the 1 million or so immigrants who came here under the parole authority under Biden, especially now that DHS memo has been
I don't want to violate any operational security issues, but there's digital footprints, there's financial footprints, there's just routine law enforcement intelligence. So individuals that we are tracking, there are a wide array of tools that we have to identify and remove those individuals, as well as, of course, support from the public, from other state and local law enforcement in helping us to identify priority targets. At the same time, of course, we're also using other law enforcement partners like FBI, ATF, DEA, Marshals to identify priority targets for removal. In addition to the parole issue, of course, we're also expanding the use of expedited removal authority as well across the country, again, as enacted by Congress in 1996 to expedite the removal of all these recent entrants into the United States.
Can you give us a sense of how many people have been deported since the president was sworn in?
Well, we've been here for a few days, and so we'll have a full update soon on the numbers. We're also engaging in a continuous scale-up operation. So you expect that tomorrow we'll have more removals than today, and then more removals the day after that and the day after that, particularly as we bring more beds online, we bring more planes online, and we bring more law enforcement partners across the interagency online, as well as activating all of these new and additional authorities, like, for example, the Alien Enemies Act. Of course, the Alien Act is an old authority, but a new in the sense that previous administrations have not activated it. Also, bringing on more international cooperation is going to increase the numbers. In other words, the more nations that we have accepting illegals more quickly, with less hassle and with less delay, again, it expedites that throughput. So, for those of you who've covered this issue before, as you know, immigration enforcement cuts across a number of departments and agencies. So we're having daily coordination at both the working group and the principals level between State Department, the Defense Department, Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Department of Justice to achieve all these operational targets. This is the largest shift in U.S. policy over the shortest time frame that I'm aware of in the history of U.S. law enforcement, and it is happening seamlessly, it is happening effectively, and the results are already speaking for themselves. Already at the border, as an example, we've gone from a policy of catch and release to no release within a single day shift. And we are removing individuals more quickly and more efficiently than has been done any point before in American history.
Do
you think the
policies
Department of-
apply to Ukrainian and Afghan refugees as well?
Well, refugees, of course, are in a different status than illegal aliens, so it's a completely separate question and has no bearing on anything that we just discussed. Yes.
Is the Department of Defense mission now strictly immigration and border, would you say?
No. The Department of Defense has a full range of all of its statutory and constitutional missions, but of course it includes, and essential to that, is the defense of the US Homeland. And if you looked at the President's initial executive orders, they included two that touch on your question. One is establishing that the defense of the US Homeland is a core mission of the Department of Defense, which of course should be obvious but has never been established by executive order before. Secondly is the declaration of national emergency and the instruction to the Department of Defense to use all necessary assets, resources, and authorities in partnership with DHS to achieve full operational control of the U.S. border, which means no unlawful entry, no got-away. So we have total control over who is entering the country, no terrorists, no criminals, no illegal trespassers, no contraband, no weapons. I mean, for example, just take one national security threat, bioweapons and bioterrorism. If you don't have operational control over the border, an alien adversary, a foreign enemy, could smuggle a bioweapon into the United States. It is unimaginable that we would allow thousands of people to enter the country uninterdicted on a daily basis. That is a core national defense mission. I have time for just a couple more questions.
Do you have a view on what's happening on the northern border? The president has tied that to his question about tariffs
He has
on the
indeed.
Canadians. Yeah, what is your view on the
I'm
situation
not
there?
prepared to give an update yet of our view on Canadian cooperation. I'll just reaffirm what you said is true. That's an essential condition the president has placed on Canada. We hope to have an update on that soon.
When do you expect larger
Number
scale?
of, undocumented immigrants who you would like to deport within the next 6 months, 1 year? Do you have any target numbers?
Again, I don't want to give a target, a specific number on that right now. Obviously, Biden let in an unknowably large number of illegal aliens. We have a number of communities that are struggling under that weight right now. I mean, you remember, for example, Springfield, Ohio, Charleroi, Pennsylvania, as well as, most urgently, the massive numbers of criminal entrants into the United States, and entire criminal syndicates that have been imported into the United States. Train Dare Walker wasn't even in the United States in any numerical presence but a few short years ago, and now, of course, it's operational in cities all across the country. So I don't want to provide you a numerical target at this point in time, but we are going to dial it up to the absolute maximum using the resources and authorities that we have.
When do you
Going back
want
to
larger
schools.
scale?
Just a few more questions.
When do you expect or want the larger scale deportation sweeps to start taking place?
Well, the deportations are already getting larger as we speak, and they're going to continue getting larger as we speak. And as I said earlier, every day is going to be bigger than the day before. So I have one more question.
Going back to schools, can you just clarify, do you plan to make ICE arrests in schools?
ICE is going to go wherever it needs to go to enforce public safety. So again, we have an epidemic of children who have been trafficked, who have been abused, who have been smuggled, and there's a nexus there involving very sophisticated international organizations. Could you imagine telling a police officer that he couldn't do a child welfare check, or telling an FBI agent that he couldn't investigate a case of child neglect or abuse? It is essential that all law enforcement partners have unrestricted access to enforce the laws of the United States, which include the defense and protection of children. So I want to end there, and I want to make a statement, which is that I want to also keep the focus today, of course, on President Trump's visit to disaster zones and the importance. We're talking about DHS and making sure that we are delivering the services, and President Trump's focus on making sure we're delivering services to American citizens in need, and that we are taking care of everybody who needs to be taken care of. I look forward to coming back very soon to talk about this important mission and to talk about everything President Trump is doing to keep the homeland safe. I thank you for your time, and if I had more time, I'd give it to you right now, but I wish you all well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.